Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are talking about the show, The Anonymous. The Anonymous aired on USA Network in August of 2024. It features 12 contestants fighting it out in two different worlds, the real world and anonymous mode. Both literally and figuratively, the name of the game is anonymity. Your overall goal in the game is to make sure nobody knows who you are in anonymous mode, and if you can do that, you can get the power to eliminate people. Now, all that might sound kind of vague, but don't worry, because that's why we're here today. We're going to talk about the game structure, the cast, things I did and didn't like about it, and if it sounds like a fun show to you, you can go check it out on Peacock, because this is going to be as spoiler-free as possible. If there is going to be a little spoiler, you will see a warning and a time tag, but for the most part, we're just talking about the actual structure of the show. Just to be completely clear, I don't count talking about things that are going to happen in the game structure. For example, maybe people being brought in after the show has already started, or things of that nature to necessarily be spoilers. I'm talking about I'm not going to spoil, like, who wins certain challenges and that sort of thing. With that being said, let me introduce you to our starting 12 contestants. Now, we have a little mix of a couple heavy hitters in here, along with just your average first-time reality TV players. So, if I don't know much about the person, I'm just going to read one of their fun facts from Peacock's little bio about the cast, but I do have some people I want to highlight and talk about. Starting off strong, our first contestant is Andy King. Now, you may be thinking, that man looks kind of familiar, and if he does look familiar to you, might I remind you about a little thing called Fire Festival and the documentary that came out on Netflix. Are you starting to put it together? Yes, this is the man who, it's really early in the video. He performed favors to get water for Fire Festival. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, that's this man. That's who we're starting out with, so I mean, yeah, A+ for casting. Then we have Christopher. He is 28 from North Carolina, and some of his fun facts includes he calls himself wild, but with a good heart, and he hates gossip and may shed light on any manipulation, even if he hurts himself in the process. I feel like that last one is very true if you watch the show. Our third contestant is Dylan, 27, from California. Dylan works in employee engagement and calls himself a professional best friend. He wants to be confident for competitors and get as much tea as possible. Again, very true fun facts. Along with that, I will add, you may have seen a clip with him going around on TikTok kind of recently. He was at the Beyonce Bowl thing, and a video of him came up on my For You page of him leaving the stadium. I think it just went viral because he's in this, like, great costume or whatever, but I saw it and I went, that's Dylan from The Anonymous, and then I followed him on TikTok because I was like, that's fantastic. I will say Dylan was one of my favorites to watch, hands down. The outfits, the attitude, everything. Fantastic. Then we have Jack, 31, from New York. He is a big board game guy. We learned that the minute he walks in. And his fun facts include he ranked 3rd at the Masters tournament for Settlers of Catan, and he was also crowned King of Catan Premier League champion and considers himself to be a cunning strategist. Then we have Casey, 32, from Tennessee. Casey and her wife live with chickens, cats, dogs, and frogs in Tennessee. Along with that, she attended the University of Tennessee as a D1 rower and participates actively in a roller derby team. Another personal favorite of mine is Lily, 26, from Michigan. She works as an engineer and met her husband while pursuing a STEM degree at Michigan State University, and she wants to use her ditzy personality to fool others into underestimating her, which I think she did a very good job of, if I do say so myself. Then there's Marcel, 33, from Washington. Marcel is actually a YouTuber named Basically I Do Work, and he does gaming streams for his job. He has over 4 million subscribers on YouTube and claims to be a professional online imposter, which would be very helpful in this sort of game. And in comes another heavy hitter. I realized a second ago there's really only 3 heavy hitters, but 3 out of 12 is enough that I felt like it was worth mentioning. Anyway, this is Nina Twine. She is 26 from North Carolina, and you might recognize her last name, and that is because she is the daughter of 2-time Survivor winner and winner in my heart of Traitors Season 2. Not winner, but I just loved watching her. Sandra Diaz Twine. Yes, she is the daughter of a legend, but this isn't her first time on reality TV. She herself has also competed on the Australian version of Survivor, one time with her mom in Blood and Water, and then she also did a Heroes Villains Australian one, so she is not to be messed with. Literally, when she came in and said her mom was Sandra, I literally just gasped, because her whole face, if you look at young pictures of Sandra too, when she was younger on Survivor, identical. It's crazy to me, and it was so funny because she's like, I don't want anybody to know who my mom is, so she tries not to bring it up for a while, and I'm sitting there like, you have her whole face. It was like when Simone Biles, I think it was her sister, was on Claim to Fame, and everybody was like, Although, that is harder with, you have to know Survivor and know Sandra, and, you're not expecting that in a game like this necessarily, so she did have more leeway than Simone Biles' sister on Claim to Fame. That one was a lot more egregious. But you get the drift. Then we have Robbie, 40, from California. She worked in the biomedical field before moving on to play professional poker. She wants to convince people she's fun-loving and social while analyzing the competition. Next up is Sydney, 22, from Georgia. She participated in pageantry growing up, helping to build her confidence and positivity. She calls herself a bad bitch, and she will be planning to use her social skills to play the game. Then we have Tyrina, 54, from Maryland. Her family couldn't afford college tuition, so to pay for school, she joined the U.S. Army, which she's been enlisted in for 35 years. She hopes her other competitors underestimate her while she relies on her military intelligence training to play the game. And last, but most certainly not least, our final contestant and heavy hitter, Xavier Prather, aka the winner of Big Brother Season 23, the first black winner of Big Brother in the year of our Lord 2021 is when that aired. Super wild, but yeah, definitely a man not to be messed with. Truly, again, it was only 3 what I would consider heavy hitters coming into the game, but they did do a good job getting people like Robbie, who's a poker player, or Tyrina with her military training, or Jack with his board game stuff. Overall, the cast is really diversified and fun. I really, really like it. I like our couple heavy hitters, like I was saying. Just overall, casting for this show, wouldn't change it. Give me 14 of them. Loved it. Now that you've met our lovely contestants, let me break down how the episodes actually work. So one thing that I thought was really fun about this show's structure, that every episode actually starts with the elimination, except for episode 1, obviously. They leave you on a cliffhanger of they kind of start the elimination, and they'll usually get down to whoever the final 2 is going to be for being eliminated, and then the episode ends, and every new episode begins with that elimination, which I thought was really interesting. It kept me hooked in. I thought it was a fun way to change things up. Starting off with eliminations every time was good. At first, the first time I saw it happen in episode 2, I was worried that eliminations were going to be kind of sporadically happening, which I'm not a big fan of. I always feel like elimination should kind of be a keystone, always happening at the same time in your episodes. So for them to make the choice to always start with an elimination was really interesting, really liked it. The other elements of every episode include anonymous mode, which I'll get more into in a minute, some form of game, and then the anonymous test. So now I'll talk about each of those 3 things in a little more detail. So first up, anonymous mode. This is a very big key factor of this entire game. It's what I was referring to earlier when I said the players are playing with each other in 2 different worlds. That's kind of the way the show presents it. That's why I'm using that kind of language of the 2 worlds. The cast interacts with each other inside of the Circle House and the Square House, which are places they live and do stuff. And then they have anonymous mode, where they literally go underground into these pods and chat with each other. But they don't know who they're chatting with because each of them has chosen a handle. It's pretty much like a little emoji that represents them, and nobody knows whose handle is whose. So they can chat freely, do whatever they want, and the name of the game is to not have anybody find out what your handle is in anonymous mode. Generally, this time is used to point fingers at who should be set up for elimination, because at the end of every anonymous mode, they do nominate people for elimination. And if you get one single nomination, you are officially up for elimination. It literally takes one vote to put you on the chopping block. You also don't know who voted for who, because again, you're using your anonymous handles. You do know which handle voted for which person. So for example, let's say Cactus was one of the handles. It'll be like, Cactus voted for Lily. That's literally like the inflection it gives. It's fantastic. And so you know that much, and you can use all this information, including like what people said in anonymous mode, what people may be talking about in the real world area, to try and figure out who is whose handle. And because we all are very clear with the handle thing now, I will skip to how the anonymous test works. This is usually the ending of our episodes that leads us into the beginning of the elimination that we see and then are cliffhanged on every single episode. During the anonymous test, each contestant is having to say who they think each handle belongs to. So for example, they'll be like, I think Cupcake belongs to Lily. Now, all of this is done privately in their anonymous mode pod. So again, nobody knows who's voting what, all of that. You take your anonymous mode test, and whoever was able to keep their handle the most secret becomes the anonymous. So whoever didn't get enough votes of people correctly guessing their handle becomes the anonymous. Once you become the anonymous, you get to decide out of everybody who's up for elimination who gets eliminated. The other fun twist and catch, nobody gets to know who was voted, or not voted, who won the anonymous, except for the person who won it. It is told to them privately in their pods, and they can keep that information all to themselves. We get to know who it is, but the other contestants don't. And sandwiched right in between anonymous mode and the anonymous test are the games. And during the anonymous, there are two forms of games. There are games in which they are competing to add money to their prize pot, and then there's a game called the face-off. And literally, I did the actual, I plotted it out, and it's almost like game for money, face-off. Game for money, face-off. It's almost just literally just interchanging with each other. The games that add money to the prize pot are your typical kind of game show games. I did think a lot of the ones they picked were really fun. They had memory ones, they had a couple kind of physical ones. It was really interesting, but, typical games. I don't want to give too much away with that. You can go watch, go have fun. My personal favorite is when they're all puzzle pieces. They're literally human puzzle pieces at one point. That's as much as I'll give you. Go check it out. Really fun time. Then there's the game Face Off. This game does not add any money to the prize pot. It is typically used to either save a player who was previously up for elimination, or it even gets twisted at one point. Spoiler if you don't want to know this, but I don't really think it's a really big spoiler. There's one time where it actually puts somebody who was safe in danger. And how Face Off works is it's almost like a game of, what is it called? I think White Elephant or Dirty Santa, where there's a bunch of these boxes in the middle. One by one, a player can go up and either pick one of the boxes or take a box that another player has already picked. Inside of each of the boxes, they usually either say at risk or safe. Obviously, you're wanting a box that's safe. When you open your box, you see what it is. You can choose to tell the other people what it says. You can choose to lie to them. You do you. It's up to you. The reason Face Off is featured so heavily is because Face Off is actually the very final challenge. The final 4 players play a game of Face Off, and whoever has the box that says winner at the end is the winner. I swear, I don't feel like they told us that till about halfway through. I didn't do a full rewatch with this one, so I don't remember, but I do remember when I was originally watching it, feeling frustrated with Face Off because I didn't know why we were playing that instead of adding money to the pot. I still have a little bit of frustrations about it, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, the reason it is an important game for them to play is it's because it's the finale game. It's a good way to see, like, how people lie, how people react to certain things. Again, it's one of those games that's all about duplicity and all that, sort of like The Traitors, The Trust, The Mole, a lot of those shows that I love. This is my bread and butter type of show. And that is kind of the main structure of each individual episode. And now I'm going to talk about some structure things that are kind of surprises. So if you don't want to know these things, skip to the timestamp I've put somewhere on the screen. I don't really think stuff like this is a spoiler, but I do think other people might. So, if you want to be surprised while you're watching it with some of these structure changes, skip ahead. Let's go. Our first big surprise we get is that they do a handle refresh 2 different times in this game. So, overall, they end up with 3 different anonymous mode handles. They do the first one obviously in episode 1 when they pick their handle, and then the next one they do is episode 4, and then they do it again in episode 10. And the reason I'm telling you the exact episodes is because there are only 12 episodes. So honestly, in my own personal opinion, I felt like the handle refresh happening twice, 2 different changes, was really weird. The other thing that coincides with the handle change in episode 4 is we also get 3 new players. We get 3 players added, bringing us back up to 12 players when we are literally on episode 4. And then we never have new players come in again. All of this, it felt really weird timing for all of it. Having that happen so quickly into just starting the game was honestly so jarring. I did not like it. Overall, these together just did not work for me. With the handle refresh, doing one episode 4 and then doing one episode 10 when the finale is literally just 2 episodes away, especially that last one felt so pointless and the first one felt so jarring. It's like, yo, we just started. Along with that, adding in 3 people right after we just started felt so weird, especially because it brought us back up to the original 12 number. It just kind of felt super jarring. And I don't like that they added 3 people all at the same time. I do, though, get with a game like this, it probably is best if you're going to add people to just add them all at the same time, because I see the idea of if you're adding new people, you're gonna want to do a handle refresh to put everybody on the same playing field. But maybe then just do that in the middle. Just do it once as a middle dramatic idea. Yeah, so I overall wasn't a big fan of their, what I would just call structure surprises or changes. I liked the idea of them. Again, I like a handle refresh idea. I like the idea of adding people, but I just didn't like the placement within the show. It felt weird. Honestly, I kind of forgot that we had added people. When I was kind of re-skimming through this to get some points together, I looked at the original 12 and went, oh right, I forgot about some of you people, and I forgot some of the people I know about weren't in the original 12. Weird, because it was so early on, just overall didn't really work for me. And with that, I think it's time to segue into things I didn't like and did like about the show overall. Obviously, number 1 are the structure changes I talked about. I'm not going to get into it since I just talked about it, and that way if you skipped it for spoilers, I'm not spoiling you. But yeah, didn't like the game structure changes. Felt like it was weird. Another thing that I already talked about loving, but I want to point out again because I liked it so much, was the casting. I loved the cast for this. I thought they did a really good job trying to pick different people with different personalities and different things that they thought were going to be helpful for the game. Like I was talking about bringing in a board game guy and things like that. Very interesting group of people, just A+ casting overall. Really enjoyed watching everybody. Another thing I touched on, but now I want to elaborate on, is the face-offs. I did not like the face-offs. I understand, after I realized it was going to be the finale game, why they wanted to hype it up so much. But like I said, I was getting frustrated with the fact that we weren't really adding money to the pot. It never felt like adding money to the pot was the most important thing. And to that point, the pot didn't even get to $100,000. I'm not gonna say what it was, but it was below $100,000, and that is way too low, in my opinion, for this sort of game. This is something I've been struggling with a lot on how to fix this game, because I just don't exactly know what the necessarily best solution would be to make this better. I do have some ideas, because I do like Face Off, but I also like the different game challenges, because I literally couldn't watch Face Off every single time, and honestly, I feel like we could make Face Off happen less, is maybe just all the games, including Face Off, are to save you from elimination instead of adding money to the pot. Because again, with the games kind of going back and forth, they're only getting like half the opportunities to add money to the pot, and it felt like a lot of the challenges were not very worthwhile money-wise. Like, there were some challenges that were literally like, you can add like $7,000 to the pot, or maybe it was $14,000 because each team. But so all of it felt very low, in my personal opinion, and that was something I kept focusing on a lot. Luckily, none of the games are so extreme that it made me upset, like Traitors sometimes does. Sometimes when I'm watching Traitors, I'm like, that challenge seems way harder than the check they're gonna end up getting for it. Luckily, that wasn't really the case here with the types of games they were playing, but still, I just don't think we need to focus on adding money to a pot. I think it's much more interesting to just focus on all the lying and the anonymous mode sort of stuff, and maybe just get rid of that. You know, just have a prize pot. Just say, the winner's gonna get $100,000. Leave it at that, keep it simple. That's what I would personally do if I was going to fix the show. And while I say I like Face Off, I liked Face Off, but I will say it felt like they would drag it on. I felt like I would be watching Face Off for forever. It felt so slow. I also don't know if I haven't really decided. I go back and forth if I liked the idea that Face Off was the finale game. I've gone back and forth on it 1,000 times, so I'm not going to say, because I truly can't decide, but I think I would like it more if I had to watch it less. Because I truly did get tired of it by the end. I was like, I get it. There are boxes. They're trying to guess which box it is. I get it. We've seen it. I don't think they need to practice Face Off that many times. Overall, though, I really did like the show. I really liked the ideas behind it. I just think there are some things that need to maybe go in and be fine-tuned. And I hope they are able to do that with a season 2. That's part of why I wanted to make this video, because I haven't heard anything about a season 2. So I feel like if I tell y'all just enough about the show to get you to go watch it, and maybe enough people watch it and go talk about it, we can get a season 2 that's a little better than this season was. But again, I really liked it. I had a fun time watching it, and the seeds are there. It's there. It just needs a little help. I love the idea of almost having like The Circle meets the Traitors. That's kind of how I was describing it to some people in my life I was talking to. I think it's the same producers. I think it's actually the same producers. Yeah, it literally is the same producers. It says it on the poster. I had just forgotten. But I do still stand by it as the best way to describe it. There's a reasoning for it as well. As I was saying before I got sidetracked on that train of thought, I do like that idea of that behind the screen anonymous mode sort of thing, and then having to deal with those same people in real life and trying to keep those two things separate. Very interesting concept and a very fun time for watching. And that's going to be it on all my thoughts and feelings on The Anonymous. As always, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. It means a lot to me. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it down below. If you like reality TV, Shark Tank recaps that will be coming back soon. The newest episode airs January 17th, I think. Anyway, Shark Tank product reviews, all that and more. Check out the channel and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before my 3-year anniversary toward the end of the year. So if you want to help your girl out, check out the channel and subscribe. As always, I want to hear your thoughts, feelings, opinions, comments. Did you watch The Anonymous? Are you going to watch it now? Did I make it sound super fun? Did I make it sound like too much and too complicated, which I was very worried about because the show is a little... Oh, and then there's this. Oh, and this, and this. Let me know all that and more. Until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.